Busyness is not a badge of honor or success, it's a warning sign. And overworking is a reflection of poor leadership. Refusing to delegate isn't about efficiency, it's about control. A lot of this is going to go back to the control that we desire because we think control is equal to leadership. That means you're not a leader. That means you're ineffective. But if you're not delegating, you are robbing the growth of people in your sphere of influence. We don't use people to just do tasks. We use tasks to build people. True leadership is measured by how well your team operates in your absence, not your presence. If you are irreplaceable, you're unscalable. You want scale? Leaders without systems are leaders who are always playing defense, reacting instead of acting, reactive instead of proactive. If your wife's not on your calendar, if your kids aren't on your calendar, if the gym's not on your calendar, if your Bible time's not on your calendar, it's not a priority to you. It's an aspiration. If you want to be a top percentage leader in whatever sphere of influence you're in, you have to be an intentional person. You got to have systems. You got to have structure. And again, the systems deliver the mission. True growth comes when you stop running from the pain and start dealing with it. Leadership is not about balance. It's about rhythm. Busyness isn't leadership. It's a symptom of something deeper. To lead, you must slow down, reflect, and realign. Leadership is not about doing more, it's about doing the right things. Your value isn't how busy you are, it's the clarity and effectiveness of your leadership. If you can stop the busyness, you can stop the burnout, and you can have longevity. Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Conversations. This week, we're going to be talking about you being a busy leader. We don't want to be busy in 2025. We want to be effective. And a lot of people, in my opinion, are overworked. They are under-efficient. They're not being efficient at all. They're not leading the way they should be because we are not designed to just be busy. Busyness is not a sign of effectiveness. Busyness is honestly not a badge of honor. I think in our culture, there's a very much a culture of hustle, of grind, of busy. Hey, bro, how you doing? Hey, I'm busy. Busyness isn't a sign of strength. It's a sign of weakness. Busyness is honestly a sign of something is seriously wrong. It's a warning sign. Busyness is not a badge of honor or success. It's a warning sign. And overworking is a reflection of poor leadership, very weak leadership. And I'm going to give you 5 different reasons potentially why you are too busy. Again, I think we could always get more efficient. I feel like I am a super structured, super detail-oriented person, and yet I still tell my wife, hey, I feel like I could get more dialed in. I feel like I could get more effective. I feel like I could get more off my plate to make sure I have margin. Because really, in my opinion, the best leaders, the ones who are super efficient and achieving at a high level, are the people who have endless margin to think, to create. The best creatives in the world are the ones who have space in their life. And if you're just busy, you're just doing random stuff all the time, it's really not a sign that you are being effective and living at the highest capacity. On top of this, as a Christian, we are not designed to be busy. Nowhere in the New Testament did Jesus run. Jesus was in ministry for 3 years on the earth and yet walked everywhere, had divine interruptions all the time, was on the way to do something and something else distracted him out of a divine appointment. So we got to make sure that we're following our leader, Jesus, and also just the design of God. God had a Sabbath when he created the earth. That's not real. How does that make sense? But he does. Why? Obviously to be an example. God had a Sabbath, you should too. So again, this is more just higher level practical, not as spiritual as you would assume, but it is spiritual because you being overworked is a sign that you are not following the way of Jesus. So again, we're going to talk through the 5 reasons why you as a leader are too busy. Number 1, just coming in hot, poor leadership. You're just not delegating. Great leaders know you cannot do it all. Poor leaders try anyways. In your mind, I can't do it all. That doesn't even make any sense. How would somebody be able to do it all, and yet you try anyways? Refusing to delegate isn't about efficiency, it's about control. A lot of this is going to go back to the control that we desire because we think control is equal to leadership. If I can control the outcome of this, that means I'm a leader. That means you're not a leader. That means you're ineffective. You're not empowering others and you're bottlenecking progress. Delegation isn't just about getting things off your plate. It's about developing people, building trust, and multiplying your capacity. So if you're not delegating, you are robbing the growth of people in your sphere of influence. You're robbing a team member on your team from growing and stepping into all that's they're designed to be. You truthfully are the linchpin of your organization when you say, I could just do it faster, I'm going to do it anyways. I know I'm going to do it better, so I'm just going to do it anyways. You could watch. That's not proper delegation. That's not proper empowerment, and it's not proper leadership. Again, leadership is about building people. It's about serving people. It's about actually leading them to somewhere else, from A to B. You're taking somebody from where they are to where they potentially don't want to go, but once they get there, they realize, I'm still thankful you took me here. So delegation isn't about getting things off your plate. That's dumping. We're not talking about dumping. That's also a sign of poor leadership, by the way, if you just dump the things you don't want to do, or you just delegate the bad things. Don't just delegate the bad things, delegate the good things. That's what a great leader does. A great leader delegates just the bad things and the good things. You got to actually think about the person, because again, we don't use people to just do tasks. We use tasks to build people. So you got to think about the strengths and weaknesses of your team, and specific tasks could actually develop somebody into the person. Maybe it's their character, maybe it's anything in their traits that you think could be developed through this, and them knowing that. Again, the best language you can use when you're delegating is, hey, on the other side of this blank, hey, on the other side of you doing this task, lives are going to be changed. You're going to be developed. You're going to be thanking me after it's done. So the number one reason why you are too busy is you're just not delegating, and that is an obvious sign of poor leadership. You got to ask yourself this question. Are you the only one who can do this task, or are you just unwilling to trust somebody else? If it's a trust issue, we got to work on that. We got to actually work on, why do I not trust somebody? And potentially it's not a trustworthy person. That's fine. Find a new person. There's always somebody else. There's always somebody up. There's one lesson I've learned in my 10 years of leadership in the church and in the business world. God always replaces what we release. I'm telling you, the person that you release because they're just not they're not achieving at the level in which you know we're supposed to be striving for and achieving, that's okay. God will replace that person with somebody who will. It happens every single time. A team leader steps out, a team leader steps in. And it's not to say that somebody doesn't have infinite value. Obviously, they have infinite value because it's never been about what they do anyways. There's an infinite value in who they are, not what they do for you or myself or the church or for the business. They have infinite value. That doesn't mean that they have infinite capacity or competency. That is the difference. So again, we got to make sure that we have people we trust, and we got to be a person who gives trust away. Because again, it is an obvious sign to me when somebody is just not delegating. That is a sign of poor leadership. Number 2, self-importance. This is the clear sign here. Everything doesn't revolve around you. It's easy to feel indispensable, but leadership isn't about being the hero. You're not the hero of the story. It's about building a team of heroes. The idea that nothing will work without me is rooted in pride, not reality. Because the reality is whatever you're building, whatever you're achieving, whatever you're seeking you don't have the one-of-one idea. That's what I'm trying to say. It's been around. The church has been around for thousands of years. You're not the one-of-one leader that God chose out of the 4.6 billion people. He might have called you. That's okay. He might have called the other person as well. But God will use anybody and everybody, and we very much are replaceable in anything. I'm telling you. True leadership is measured by how well your team operates in your absence, not your presence. You want to look at a great leader, have them not be around for a week and see what gets done. See what's achieved. Because again, we don't want to, this is not aspirational. Like we are leaders, we are striving. This is a podcast for people that's not someday I'm going to be this. It's, hey, no, today I am this. I am a leader. I'm a person of influence. Again, if you are irreplaceable, you're unscalable. You want scale. That's all the podcasts, right? All the episodes, all the Instagram posts, the carousels, the tweets, the threads, the seminars, or the podcasts you listen to is designed about scale. How to grow your church in 6 months with Facebook ads, how to grow your team, how to grow your sales team. You want to know the actual truth of that is be replaceable. Be a person who is not the hero in the narrative. Don't try to be the person who is trying to seek honor. Be a person who gives honor. Don't be the hero, build heroes. What does that mean practically? In every single situation, in every single conversation, in every single moment that you are leading with people, include them in it. Include them in the responsibilities, include them in the decision making, in the ideation and brainstorming period. That to me tells me that you are truthfully thinking about that person, not using them to build your empire. That's not a leader. That's a king. And you're not a king. I'm telling you, we have like 2 kings on the planet. So you're not a king. I'm telling you. And truthfully, we only have one king, and his name's Jesus, and you're not him. So you are not him. You cannot have self-importance when it comes to being a leader. And again, it does come back to being busy. Busyness, again, is not a sign of success. It's a sign of absolute weakness. So again, it's easy to feel indispensable as a leader. I get it. You get on a call. It is really easier for you to lead the call. It is easier for you to make a decision. It is easier to you to just do it because it's faster and you know how to do it. But again, that's not the point. The point is not to get something done. The point is to build. Number 3, this is probably the one where I live the most in trying to continue to grow in, is low intentionality. You don't have systems. A chaotic schedule is a sign of being in demand. It's a sign of poor planning. Leaders without systems are leaders who are always playing defense, reacting instead of acting, reactive instead of proactive. Systems are the backbone of intentionality, providing the structure to focus on what truly matters. If you are a leader, you have to have a schedule. Like, this is basic stuff here. From the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, there should be a level of margin in your life to know what you're doing when you're supposed to be doing it. And everyone's different. I get it. Some of you are so efficient in the morning, and some of you have cloud brain till 2 p.m. That's okay. Just be aware of it and have a level of self-awareness and work your schedule around to be when you're most effective. Don't delegate that time away. When am I most effective? Early morning from 6 to 9. That is my best 3 hours of my day to brainstorm, to ideate, to dream, to be in prayer, to read my Bible, to sit with God and commune with him. Because why? That's my best time. I'm not giving away my best time. That's not efficient, and that makes me a bad leader. I have a date night on my calendar once a week. Why? Because my wife matters to me. But again, if you show me your calendar and all you have is business meetings on your calendar, it truthfully shows what your priorities are. If your wife's not on your calendar, if your kids aren't on your calendar, if the gym's not on your calendar, if your Bible time's not on your calendar, it's not a priority to you. It's an aspiration. And I'm just believing that in 2025, this is not an aspirational year. It's not, I'm going to work on these 10 things this year. It's not, I'm going to step into these 10 things. I might not be good at 100 things, but I'm going to be good at 5 things, and I'm going to step into them. And I'm believing you as well. So are you leading with a plan, or is your busyness a result of winging it every day? You can't wing it every day. If you want to be effective, if you want to be a top percentage leader in whatever sphere of influence you're in, you have to be an intentional person. This goes back to me being a youth leader when I was 18 years old, 17. I literally had it in my calendar on Monday mornings. I'm going to text my youth kids, like my little middle schoolers that I led a crew with, and we did ministry together. I texted them on Mondays. I made sure that they were good. I was praying for them that day. Why? It wasn't that I was removing the emotion from it, the pastoral ministry side of it. I was just making sure that they knew they mattered to me. And what ends up happening, though, is they actually end up anticipating it. So if you don't text them on a Monday morning, they're going to wonder, I wonder if he's okay. I'm going to reach out to him. That's a relationship. That's a friendship. That's a partnership. That's us working together. Because again, a relationship is two-sided. A leader and a follower, that's a relationship. And if that person is not on the other side, it's not a relationship. You're just managing them at that point. You got to have systems. You got to have structure. And again, the systems deliver the mission. So whatever your mission is, look at your systems. And if you're looking, a lot of people only worry about outcomes. It's, I want to get to 10 million in sales. Okay, but what is the systems that are going to deliver that mission? Because a system isn't just an app on your phone. It is just a daily active activity. It's a daily activity that you're doing to generate whatever you're trying to achieve. What we would call it in the business world is just revenue generating activities, the RGA. During sales hours, during business hours, I'm doing RGA. I'm not doing the things that aren't generating revenue generating activities. Are the most important part of my day if I'm in sales. Because why? Nothing else determines the outcome that I'm trying to achieve. So you potentially just have low intentionality. Number 4, you're attempting to numb pain. A lot of people fill their calendars up because they don't feel comfortable with themselves. It's time to deal with the real issues. So for some reason, for some of you, busyness is a distraction, a way to avoid deep pain, avoid to not want to go home, doesn't want to potentially deal with your kids or yourself. Whether it's unresolved conflict, unmet expectations, or personal struggles, staying busy feels like a solution. And some of you, you really are struggling. You don't know how to sit by yourself. You don't know how to sit with God. You feel shame. You feel guilt. You feel worried about something. Maybe you have anxiety about your marriage or your friendships or your family. And it's a trap. Literally, it's a trap. I'm telling you, it's not solving anything for you just overworking, overdoing things, because at the end of the day, there will be a stop. I'm telling you, no matter how big of a snowball you think that's just going to roll forever, Mount Everest has a valley. I'm telling you, you will hit it. You will absolutely hit it at some point. It's a trap. So true growth comes when you stop running from the pain and start dealing with it. You want to be an effective leader in 2025. You want to be an effective parent. You want to be an effective husband. Start learning that maybe my busyness is me trying to numb the pain in my life. So my question for you is, what are you avoiding by staying busy? And healing starts when you face that. Whatever that is for you, if you want to be healed, 1, you need to seek Jesus. 2, you need to be honest. Because most leaders can't be honest with others because they're not honest with themselves. They're not. You're not honest with yourself. You're not honest where you're at mentally, physically, psychologically, spiritually. You're just not honest. You're trying to overwork to avoid and numb the real issues. Number 5, it's what was modeled. Find a new model in 2025, please. Many leaders are simply replicating what they saw growing up or in the past workplaces. You saw a leader, you saw an entrepreneur striving and overworking. If hustle and burnout were modeled as the path to success, it's easy to follow it. But just because it's normal doesn't mean it's healthy. That line can work with anything in your life. Just because it feels normal doesn't mean it's right. Great leaders challenge the unhealthy patterns they've inherited and choose a better way. If you want to be a great leader, start to understand that you don't have to be a copy and paste version of who you're following. You can chew the meat and spit out the bones and say, I'm going to learn from that, and I'm not going to do that. Oftentimes, by the way, whether you know you're supposed to follow somebody or be a part of something is when you see problems, are you the solution to it or are you just supposed to learn from it? That means you're not supposed to be there. If you feel a conviction that I'm supposed to be the solution, that means you're supposed to be there. Who are you modeling your leadership after? What's your model? Today, 2025, what is your model? Who are you following? I always try to find 3 to 5 people, I don't care where they live, what they're doing, how many followers they have. They just have something about them that I'm like, man, I really like that person. I like their fruit. I like the way they treat their spouse. I like their church. I like whatever. And I just try to ask the right questions of, what are you doing every single day? A lot of these episodes, by the way, when I'm interviewing people, that's why I ask, how do you produce at such a high level and still have margin? Like, where did you learn that? Who taught you how to have margin? Who taught you how to think that way? Because if you can learn how somebody thinks, you can apply it to your own context and make sure that you can learn how to think that way they do in your wiring. So is it someone whose life reflects health, balance, and true impact? Look at those 3 categories of the person you're following and ask yourself, does their life reflect health? When you look at them physically, are they healthy? Spiritually, do they have fruit on their life? When you get around them, do you feel refreshed or do you feel small? Balance. I understand leadership is not about balance, it's about rhythm. Yes, that is just kind of a statement that people say, but it really is true. There are months and weeks where I'm grinding, I'm pushing, still having margin, still having a Sabbath, still having a date night. Absolutely, that doesn't mean that. But it does mean that there are slower and faster seasons where literally just planted a church, so that means it's a bigger, more full season. But it doesn't mean I've been busy. Did they reflect balance and then impact? Are they actually impacting their lives? Is their results speak for themselves, or are they trying to manipulate results to make them feel better than they are? Because again, they're not being honest with themselves. So the bottom line here, busyness isn't leadership. It's a symptom of something deeper. To lead, you must slow down, reflect, and realign. Leadership is not about doing more, it's about doing the right things and ensuring your team can thrive without you constantly in the mix. So we're going to read through these real quick. 5 reasons why you are too busy. You have poor leadership. You're not delegating. Are you the only one who can do this task, or are you just unwilling to trust somebody? Number 2, self-importance. Everything doesn't revolve around you. If you are unreplaceable, you are unscalable. Low intentionality. You don't have systems. Are you leading with a plan, or is the busyness the result of winging it every day? Number 4, you're attempting to numb pain. It's time to deal with your real issues. What are you avoiding by staying busy? Healing starts when we face that. You have to be honest with yourself in 2025. Don't carry that stuff anymore. Whatever you're carrying, whatever's worrying you, whatever's stressing you out, whatever conflict is in your home, today is the day. When you listen to this podcast, it might be in 10 years. Today is the day that you be honest with yourself so that you can be honest with your spouse, your kids, your friends, your family, and you can find healing and freedom. Number 5, it's what was modeled. Find a new model. Who are you modeling your leadership after? Is it somebody whose life reflects health, balance, and true impact? Last thought here, your value isn't how busy you are, it's the clarity and effectiveness of your leadership. When I'm if I was to sit down at coffee with you, I'm not going to ask you the entry-level questions of busyness and hustle and grind. I'm going to ask you how you're doing. And if you don't know how you're doing, if somebody asks you that and it's good or busy, you just have to be honest with yourself. If you are actually being busy, well, let's solve that by listening to the last 20 minutes of this episode. If you're just good, define that. Clearly define. What does it mean when I feel like I'm just good? And is good my baseline? Because you could be doing great. You could be doing extravagant. You could be doing bad. You just have to be really honest with yourself and have actual tangible results. Because if you're just going by the fly or just by emotion, not devotion, what you're going to find is you're going to be really burnt out. And by the way, that's what busyness equals to true burnout. And burnout is a word that everybody uses. I'm burnt out. I can't serve. I'm burnt out. I got to take time off. I'm burnt out. You're burnt out because you're busy. And again, if you can stop the busyness, you can stop the burnout and you can have longevity. A lot of people get really excited for the first couple months of their job, of their marriage. It's a real honeymoon phase, right? We just planted a church. The last 4 months, people have been in a honeymoon phase. And then they have to realize, oh, I got to do this every single Sunday. You do. And Sunday's coming. Regardless if you want it to or not, it's coming and it's going to be honest. If you're on the platform, if you're a preacher, if you're a worship leader, it's very telling whether or not you fell into Sunday. And if you fell into Sunday, you're just telling me you're not effective and you're not a leader. And again, saying that is harsh, I understand, but that's just honesty. Just be honest with yourself so that you can be honest with others and be a true leader. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Conversations. I believe you and I can actually be effective this year. I believe we can get more systematized. We can get more structured, not out of religion or legalism, but understanding that God has actually wired us to be leaders, to be world changers, to be culture shifters, that when you walk in a room, somebody understands that person's a leader. Why? They respect you. There's a fruit on your life that you make people feel known, you make them feel seen, you make them feel needed. And I'm just believing that's going to be you this year. That's going to be me this year. So again, thank you for listening to this week's episode. We will see you next week.